Our journey continues in the town of Yountville as the sun sets over California's famed Napa Valley. Rows of glasses await some of the country's best wines. Wine made using sustainability practices perfected over time. So how are these farmers battling shifts in growing seasons and the limited water supply? The food forecast for Napa Valley wine sustainability starts now. From the berries to the zucchini flower, almost everything on our plate was not only farm to table, but this farm to this table. Dining at Robert Sinsky's Vineyards, I feel like I'm on an episode of Top Chef.
Cheers, we're gonna do the wave. Send it on down. Send it on down.
Joining me, Robert himself and his wife Maria, an award-winning chef and the chef at the Vineyard. And then there's Jeff Vernick, Robert's winemaker, partner, and friend of nearly 30 years.
Say cheers. Back at you, Rob.
This trio is what makes Robert Sinsky Wines unique. Originally a photographer, Sinsky took over his father's vineyards in 1986.
Early on, my father started this business, and he believed that science could conquer all. When I took over the business, we realized that there was no organic material in the soil anymore. We had basically, by using herbicides, we were sterilizing the soil. We were breaking all the natural rhythms.
Sinsky knew that they needed to get back into those natural rhythms and become more organic.
Nature doesn't create a monoculture.
Right.
Farmers create a monoculture. So then the trick is to grasp natural rhythms and take it further so that we can heal any damage we're doing.
So they turned the vineyard into a biodynamic farm.
Unfamiliar with the term biodynamic? So was I. Biodynamic farming is just a form of organic farming. No chemicals, just nature, where compost and manures are key. They rely heavily on animals and do as little as possible to disrupt the natural flow of the earth.
If we are entering an era of climate change, if we are going to start having spikes during the growing season that we can't control, how do we create a more resilient vine? We practice what we call the perfect circle. So whether it's adding sheep to the landscape where the sheep graze in the wintertime instead of using chemicals. We don't use herbicides. The sheep take us down this path where we're turning the wool into yarn. We are actually taking the pelts. We consumed some of the lamb last night with dinner. So the whole idea is to make efficient use and not be afraid of biodiversity.
Their flock of sheep is now up to 33, and they rent up to 400. They've been insuring themselves against change for decades.
You can see there's a permanent cover crop here. Because this is south and west facing, we have a lot of reflective heat from the sun due to its exposure, but by keeping this permanent cover crop here, you can see that it modulates within the canopy here.
So far, that model has taken them to a premium wine sold from specialty wine shops to even Whole Foods. Maria mirroring her cooking style with their farming style, simplicity.
First we look at the garden. If it's not in the garden, we look at the farmer down the street. If it's not there, we probably won't use it.
And when it comes to caring for the environment, she shuts down anyone who says they can't make a difference.
The thing is, I think people feel powerless. Like, it's not gonna make a difference if I do it, if it's just me. But there is a power in one, because 1 + 2 + 3, if everybody does it, then that's powerful. But if everybody walks around acting like they have no power and they can't change it, then nothing's ever going to happen. I mean, we will go to hell in a handbasket,
right.
You know?
Right. The Sinskys only irrigate with reclaimed water, but there are other farmers who dry farm. That's right, 0 irrigation.
When the vine is stressed, it produces more, well, with reds, it produces more color, it produces more tannin, and that's what you want in the wine. With the whites, you get more aromatic compounds, you get smaller crop, which means more intense juice.
That's Andy Erickson, owner of Favia Wines, one of the few completely dry farmers in Napa Valley. He has a small operation in Coombsville, just under an acre.
This particular vine has a pretty normal crop on it. I think if we did irrigate the vine, we'd get more fruit, but that's not really the point for us. I mean, you can see this is a small cluster. If you were to go to a vineyard that had big soils that they were watering, the thing might be, this big, but the wine here is really intense and aromatic, and we love it that way.
That's the thing. Even in drought, these vines will survive, but the amount of fruit they're going to get is going to be less. However, Napa Valley is one of the few agricultural spots where less can be more.
If I described to you that 2015 was very dry and the crop was really small and it was an early harvest, and that should be expressed when you taste the wine, right? So it should have all the attributes that it's very intense and it's got some pungency to it. And
one of his favorite vintages came from one of the worst years in the drought. And get this, Andy says that many of the soils in Napa Valley are capable of dry farming.
I have a vineyard in St. Helena that I work with where the owner ran out of water last year. The well ran dry, and so we decided we're going to try this experiment. Part of the vineyard we just didn't water all year, and the wine was great.
Yeah.
And the vineyard looked fine. And so I think over time you can learn that if you have the right conditions, you can do that. And so yeah, where you can, you should.
Yeah. They actually use computer modeling to plant the rows to avoid sunburn on the grapes when there are extremes in heat. And they carefully match the root systems to the soil type.
By the way, dry farming, not a new concept.
There's a vineyard behind us, pretty much adjacent, which is called the Earthquake Vineyard, and that was planted in 1906, right before or right after the earthquake in 1906. And that's been dry farmed for 112 years or whatever it is. Never been watered, so we drive by that place every day. I've had the wines and I thought, well, how hard could it be? I mean, I think it is something that people don't realize they can be doing, or they haven't explored it the way that they should. But again, it's something that you either do it now or you do it when you're forced to do it.
Right.
So I think it's something people should be thinking about now.
Andy, Robert, and much of Napa are hoping to lead by example, so we can all be cheersing in Napa for centuries to come. This is the Food Forecast, Napa Valley Wine Sustainability.